Lords, it's a pleasure to follow the Noble Lady Baroness Walmsley, and I attach my name to Amendment 161 about the automatic enrolment for the Healthy Start scheme, as indeed did the Noble Lord, Lord Bethell. So I think if we're looking at cross-party, broad political spectrums, this is one of those in that contest. And the Noble Lady has already very much, I think, set out the powerful case for this amendment. I'll just add one thing. The Noble Lady spoke about the government's apparent lack of data in this area. In the other place, my noble friends did indeed ask a whole series of questions asking the government about this, and the response that they got was the NHS Business Services Authority, which operates the scheme, does not hold any data on the number of people eligible, and so therefore that's surely something that's in the range of fixable, and surely it should be fixed. I'm mostly going to focus on Amendment 175 in my name, also kindly supported by the Noble Lady Baroness Boycott. And 175 is a new clause to provide for holiday and activity programs for pupils in receipt of free school meals. Now, I note that this would actually be a lot of pupils. About 1 in 4 pupils before the government's recent changes to free school meals are already eligible for free school meals. Those were extremely tight criteria. The government has now opened them up a little. There's some debate about the number of children affected, but nonetheless, these are children who the government has acknowledged, most of whom previous governments acknowledged, really needed the support of hopefully healthy, I'll get back to that, meals, hot meals during term time. But what happens at weekends? There is a reason why the hashtag holiday hunger has just become a cliche almost. Those children face families whose budgets are at the absolute edge anyway, and then the holidays come and they can't be guaranteed to be fed. And what this amendment also does is provides for ensuring that there are also activities and programs relevant to those children during the school holidays. And one of the things we've seen in many of our areas, particularly perhaps some of our poorest areas, is that the availability of free activities during the school holidays has fallen and fallen. The privatisation of public spaces, the fencing in of playing fields, the removal of public spaces that then become privatised and that can be quite hostile to children. And if you're going to go out and if you're going to get access to a loo, you have to buy something, and that's just not something that's available to people. So what this amendment does is ensures there's a meal and holiday program that supports those children and those families. It's tackling poverty, and it's tackling some of the issues of public health that are so acute that the Noble Lady Baroness Walmsley referred to. Now, I will note that, declaring my position here as Vice President of the Local Government Association, this would have to be funded from the centre. The Noble Lady Baroness Walmsley referred, I think, to the difficulties in terms of the free school breakfast program and how some schools have had to pull out of that because they didn't have the funding. And certainly local government would really struggle to fund this proposal in this amendment. But I would argue to the government that the relatively modest costs would be far outweighed by the benefits of public health in terms of the inclusion of some of the poorest children in our communities, giving them a space that's constructive when otherwise they might be spending their time that's potentially in destructive kind of ways. And I will just note, because I think it's worth noting that this is not just something I've dreamed up. My honourable friend in the other place, Ellie Chowns, had a similar amendment down. But we've only got to go to the Republic of Ireland, and I note that quite recently it announced a program that looks remarkably like this. For this coming year, they're going to put on activity programs for 2 to 4 weeks aimed at the most children at most risk of disadvantage and those with complex special educational needs. In Ireland, 58,000 pupils took part last year. They're expecting more next year. So this is something that a very broadly comparable society is already doing, acknowledging the need and acting on. Now, I do finally, I mean, there's a huge number of positive amendments in this group, and I'm not going to speak to anything like all of them, but I do particularly want to highlight 190, to which I would have attached my name had I got my act together, and 194, which I would have attached my name if it were not already fully occupied. And this is about, both of these are about the quality of school breakfasts and lunch. And this is so crucial, and I just wanted to make one general point in this context. The Times Health Commission reported recently, and it had a really interesting look at Japan and what a contrast there is in Japan compared to us. In Japan, just 4% of adults are obese compared to 26% here. In Japan, fewer than 2% of the under fives are overweight. They are essentially all at a healthy weight. And what we've got is school systems, and the Times journalists visited the school system and saw Kokhoku Primary School, seeing what school lunches are like. The children were eating spiced baked fish, vegetables sprinkled with dried bonito and rice, and they were labelling out the food themselves. A pupil got up at the start and explained why the sweet corn in the rice was a beneficial nutritional advantage. And the school is built around a giant kitchen with windows on every side so pupils could see the chefs preparing the meal. Now, I wanted to say that, because I was actually reflecting on this committee's debate a couple of days ago when we were talking about children's social care. I really reflected. I had the amendment that said we should end for-profit provision in children's social care. And it struck me when I read Hansard afterwards that nobody had actually defended the idea of the market private provision of social care. All of the people speaking against my amendment said, oh, well, you know, we've got where we are now and it's too difficult to change. Well, I think when it comes to free school meals, and I'll come to a later group where I'm going to say there should be school meals for everybody, we have to say this needs a giant leap of change. We cannot allow this to continue as we are now. We have to have the imagination to think, yes, we're in a bad place, but we can do significantly, massively better than this, not just try and have a little bit of improvement.
I rise and